to another adventure in gardening. So today I'm going to walk you around and show you some of the plants in my garden that make it worth coming outside in the winter for. But first I wanted to tell you a little bit what it's like here where I garden in Connecticut. I garden in Connecticut Zone 6, and I'm about 30 minutes north of the ocean. I can get to the ocean about 30 minutes. If my sister's driving, we can make it in 25. But so the image that people have of Connecticut is, you know, that hallmark kind of winter where there's gentle snow falling all the time, and there's, you know, snow on the ground, and everybody's outside enjoying the snow, and that's really not what it's like here, where I am anyway. And maybe in the hills of Litchfield, maybe that's the case, but not here. The part of Connecticut that I live in, or that I garden in, is mostly what you see behind me. This is what it looks like, okay? We do get snow. Sometimes we have a lot of snow. Sometimes we have no snow. Sometimes it's, you know, negative 20 degrees, and sometimes it's 50 degrees. Like, no kidding. For most of the winter, we just have ups and downs depending on the year. We did have snow already this year in December, and we had a lot of snow. It stuck around for a few days, and then it all melted and was gone. For the most part, though, it's barren looking, okay? It's the ground is hard. The ground feels like concrete most days, okay? Now today it's beautiful. It's okay, it was 37 degrees a few minutes ago. Now it feels like 40. That's beautiful to me. But you know, this morning the ground was hard like concrete, and now it doesn't feel as hard. I wanted to share a little story with you just to put it in perspective of what it's like to garden here. When I was a young gardener and I was working at a greenhouse, we would get phone calls, and you know, this was in the 1900s, people, okay, pre-Google. You know, now if you want to know something, you can Google it. At that time, if you wanted to know somebody, you either read a book or you had to ask someone. True story. So we used to get phone calls all the time, people wanting information about plants or how to grow things. So I get this phone call, and it's a woman, and she said to me, she said, I need to know what I can plant in my window boxes that will bloom all winter long. And at first I thought it was a joke. Okay, so I said, well, there's nothing that will bloom all winter long. I mean, you can put ornamental cabbage and kale in your window boxes, and you could put pansies in your window boxes, but you know, as the winter goes on, they look good for you know, for quite a while, and then the cabbage and kale will kind of just like melt. Sometimes the pansies, you can get them to carry over through the winter. Now on most mornings, I have some pansies here, I'll show you in a couple minutes. Most mornings, those pansies are laying flat to the ground. They look black or purple with crystals all over them. They look sad. Their little blooms go down like this. But then when the sun comes out, they'll perk right up. That's how it works. And sometimes pansies don't make it through the winter at all. So it just depends. So I'm explaining all of this to this person on the phone, and this is not acceptable. She said, that can't possibly be true. There has to be. She said, how about geraniums and impatiens? And I'm like, no, I'm sorry. And I'm still thinking it's a crank call, you know. And she yells to a person in the background, and she's like, this woman's trying to tell me that nothing blooms here in the wintertime. Where did we move? Why did we move here? And she's yelling at somebody. And then she says to me, if what you're saying is true, why would anyone ever live here? And I'm like, yeah, why would anyone ever live here? I said, well, I was born here. And she said, I need to speak to a manager. So hopefully that was such a long time ago, and hopefully that person adjusted well to living in Connecticut. So why do I live here? Why do, you know, you've seen the memes. I live where the air hurts my face, right? Yeah, I live where the air hurts my face in the wintertime. So why would anyone do that? Well, my family lives here, and my family is super important to me. We pretty much all live here. And there are days that that same family brings challenges and I have this little fantasy about packing up my sister and, you know, driving south until we see palm trees. Don't test me, family. But okay, so that's one reason that I've stayed here all these years, because I want to be close to my family. Another reason is, as I've gotten older, I sure do appreciate the winter rest. Okay, gardening and, you know, growing food, preserving food, that is a lot of work, and I have come to really like these down months. Take a little better care of myself. So yeah, so I like the winter rest. And I also really like the fact that the garden in the wintertime, because almost everything dies back to the ground, the garden is a clean slate. It is perfect for dreaming. You can dream and plan, and, you know, last year's mistakes or problems are gone, and you get to start over. So those are my reasons why I garden here. So gardeners and people who love the outside, we need a reason to go outside, okay? When it's barren and there's nothing to do, there's no reason to go outside. And most of the people in this area, they hibernate big time. I spend a little bit of time outside every day. I go for walks. I have little chores that I've saved for the garden for winter. And then when springtime comes, and I see no one, I mean, really, very few people do I see. And then when springtime comes, all of a sudden everybody is outside again, and I'm like, who are these people? Where did they come from? I don't want to live part-time. I want to enjoy all of life all the time. So gardeners, and like myself, we need a reason to go outside. It is easy to become depressed in wintertime here. I did a video on St. John's wort. I'll link it below. You know, because the days are short, it's a real thing. SAD, seasonal affective disorder, that is a real thing. But, you know, to be out in the fresh air and get what little sunshine there is this time of year, it's important. But you need to have a reason. You need to be strategic in your plantings. So I'm going to show you some of the plants that I have in my yard that give me a reason to come outside. I like to see green. The holly behind me, I mean, that's just an example. There's a lot of evergreens that you can plant in your yard. But there are other plants too, and I want to show you some that you might not have thought of, and hopefully it'll give you some ideas to plant in the springtime. So this time of year, I'm always looking to monitor the progress of things, and I love to come outside and see how my plants are doing. So to see things that look like they're alive, that's a very good thing. The lamb's ear is one of those. I love lamb's ear. It makes this great carpet, just looks good all the time. So lamb's ear is definitely one of those plants that are worth coming outside for. The fall planted arugula, it looks great. I mean, it even does the same thing I was telling you the pansies do, where it'll, like, when it's really cold, you know, below freezing, it'll get flat to the ground. It's still edible, and it's going to be one of the first plants that start really growing in the springtime. But this is on the south side of the house, up against the foundation, so it's very well protected. So arugula. I like to come out and monitor the progress of the garlic. You know, it's kind of funny, if you watch the video I did on garlic, you know, some of the garlic, all of it came up, and other varieties, they didn't all come up. But there's the one pansy I have, a self-sowed, probably midsummer. But, you know, if you can buy pansies in the fall and put them in protected areas, you can have pansies in the winter, and on nice days they'll do this. So here's a plant not too many people think of. It's teucrium. And it looks like this for most of the winter. I was trying to grow a little hedge right here of teucrium. But it's a great plant, and it flowers. I can't remember. Is it spring? Is it summer? I don't know, but it's really pretty. But I like it because of how it looks in the wintertime. There's much to do in this garden still. I haven't done much cleaning at all, but I just wanted to show you the leopard's bane. So this is leopard's bane, and it looks like this all winter long. And in this early spring, it has a pretty yellow flower. So leopard's bane is one of those plants, though, that you need to keep in control because you can see it's like everywhere. Leopard's bane's taken over. All of the hens and chicks, they look so, Penny, don't do that, honey. They look so pretty in the wintertime. This is one of the chick charms right here. Look at that. I mean, this is the time of year to identify, the cat is ramming. This is the time of year to identify those areas that you want to see something when you go outside, and then decide what is it that you want to see. But I love to see the hens and chicks. Sempervirums. Yes, Penny. So the 2021 garden is going to have lots and lots of lavender. If anything else, it's for, so I have lavender in the winter time, but lavender looks good here in zone 6 in the winter. Now this plant right here is one of my favorites, and it's really not supposed to be here. This is osmanthus gauchii, something like that. It is hardy to zone 6, and when you live in zone 6, you don't normally buy, you're risking, where we are, you're risking, you want really them to be hardy to zone 5. I think it's because we are by the water here, I don't know, but I can get away with some things like this. But this osmanthus, it looks good all the time. I love this plant. This is what Ajuga chocolate chip looks like this time of year. Really flat to the ground, but it has interesting color. Of course, all the evergreens are beautiful. I love to look at them this time of year. I have quite a few different boxwoods and arborvitae, but down below here is liriope. This is what they look like in the winter. Kind of flat to the ground, but they're green. I like that. So this is a euonymus that's growing up my metal shed. I love the way it has that little bit of pink this time of year. This is another ajuga, very flat to the ground, very purple. And right here is a heuchera. I mean, this looks like a mess, right? But underneath the old leaves are the new leaves for spring. This is wild ginger that looked pretty good up until probably right before Christmas. But it'll be one of the first plants to really start to grow in early spring. There's a variegated liriope. Very flat to the ground. If I had done this video in early December, the sage would have really looked good at that point, but it's kind of done with the freeze and the thaw and the freeze and the thaw. You can see primrose tucked into the garden there. But the plant that really I wanted to show you today, and I talked a lot about these in the springtime, is epimediums, because out of all the things that I've showed you, this plant this plant is it's just beautiful. I love coming down to look at this plant. So some epimediums are evergreen and some die back to the ground. I have quite a few that are growing in the garden here. Let me take you to this one. Try not to step on anything. And this one is dying back right now, okay? It did look good a few weeks ago, but it's just about done. But this one is just gorgeous. And I think that one right in the back, I think that's a different variety. I think I planted another one there. But seeing this, every time I walk past it, I'm like, man, I gotta plant a lot more of these. So here's another epimedium. This is a yellow flowering one. It's got an interesting saw tooth to it. I mean, they just look great still. So as you can see, there's really still a lot of garden cleanup that needs to be done. It almost seems like I go from, tending the garden and watering and weeding to winter, but I wish I could say that this is strategic, because it really isn't, but a lot of the plants that are around me, the echinacea, the agastache that's right here, all of these seed heads, I watch the birds, the golden finches, on taking the little seeds out, they're still doing it right now. So I'm not going to cut everything down. I'm going to leave things that look interesting or that I know that the birds are eating from. But the rest of these things, I consider what I do on mild days like today, that I want to be outside, that I want to be kneeling on the ground. I consider this to be a head start on spring cleanup, really. I'm not going to remove any of the leaves that are on the ground, though. Not right now. I'm going to wait until about March to do that. I want the ground to stay covered just as it is for now, and I'm just going to remove the dead stalks and things that look like weeds to me. So another reason to get me outside in the wintertime in the garden. Penny. So this might be a little off topic, but as I was cleaning up this gooseneck in here, I came across this praying mantis egg sac. And this is a great advertisement against doing that clear cutting of fall cleanup that so many people do. It takes away places for beneficial insects to lay their eggs. So when I was doing the greens for the winter arrangements, I kept coming when I was doing the greens for the winter arrangements, I kept coming across egg sacs, and I put them in this little container. So I have a collection now of praying mantis egg sacs, and you cannot bring these inside. You have to leave them outside. So I keep them in this container with a lid in a garden closet that I have outside. And then when springtime comes, I will attach them, Penny, oh my word. When springtime comes, I will attach them to tree branches or shrubs and let them hatch out naturally. So you don't ever want to bring these inside. No, I did it by accident one time. So wherever it is that you garden, if there is a season that it looks kind of barren, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. But you have to be strategic in your planting and seek out plants that maybe aren't so common, like the epimediums I just showed you. And of course there are hellebores. Hellebore, I don't have a single hellebore in my garden, not a single one. I don't know what's wrong with that. I need to get some this year because I think it's one of those plants that they start to bloom like now, February, you know, and I don't know. I think I have to buy hellebores. So thanks for joining me today on this little walk outside and looking at some of the plants with me that I think are interesting in the winter time. It's all about strategic planting. Planting things that make you want to get outside and check on them, even when it's so cold that the air hurts your face. Remember, every day is an adventure, so get out there and make it a good one. I'll see you soon.